Most of us know how much fuel our car uses over 100 kilometres. But what about at home or in the office? Who has a clue how much energy they use per year or per square metre? Or how much oil, gas or electricity? Practically no one. And we'd probably be surprised to find out. Take a look at this waste detector. Filming a house with an infrared camera allows us to see directly the heat lost from the building. The areas of greatest heat loss show up in red. On this basis, just imagine the amount of energy lost in an entire town or a country. And here we're only looking at heat loss. It's the same story when it comes to waste from lights, hot water production, and air conditioning. The energy performance of many of our buildings is poor. Yet in Europe we spend on average 90% of our time inside buildings. The energy we use indoors accounts for 40% of the entire European Union consumption. That's more than for industry or transport. However, technological progress coupled with relatively simple measures could bring about energy savings of up to 20% across the European Union. Even more in the new member states, while at the same time making buildings more comfortable. Which is why a new European directive applies from January 2006. It tightens up rules on energy performance in both living and workplaces throughout the European Union, and encourages all countries to meet the same equally high standards. For the European Energy Commissioner, the stakes are high.
This directive is extremely ambitious in its scope because we face a lot of challenges. Climate change, we should also see a situation with security of supply. There is less conventional sources of energy, and building directive aim is to decrease energy consumption and to make energy consumption, I could say, more intelligent, more clever. 40% of the energy we are using for buildings, and the biggest saving potential is there.
Buildings using less energy will help to meet the requirements of the Kyoto Protocol and reduce energy bills not just for the European Union, but also for tenants and owners. So what's got to change and for whom? Firstly, every country must define a means of calculating energy performance in its buildings within a common EU framework. To be able to compare buildings, the means of calculating must be the same on a national level as a regional level, and it must take into account all the factors which influence energy consumption. In the Upper Austria region, this method has been used for many years. This is the Regional Energy Advice Centre in Linz. Several hundred people come here every year to ask for advice on ways to reduce their fuel bills.
Das geht von jungen Familien, die ein neues Haus planen, bis zu Familien, die überlegen, umzubauen, zu sanieren. Wir berechnen von einem Haus die Energiekennzahl, also den Kennwert an Energieverbrauch pro Quadratmeter, und verwenden dafür die Unterlagen von einer Häuselbaufamilie, also zum Beispiel den Bauplan oder die einzelnen Beschreibungen der Bauteile, und können damit einerseits aufgrund vom DEM-Standard, andererseits auch von der Geometrie des Gebäudes und der Ausrichtung, ob dieses Gebäude zum Beispiel nach Süden orientiert ist, ganz genau diese Kennzahl ausrechnen und dann Hilfestellung geben, um diese Kennzahl noch zu verbessern und ein noch besseres Haus im Endeffekt zu realisieren.
Das Wohnzimmer.
The experts at the centre don't claim to be miracle workers. Usually the addition of a series of relatively simple measures can improve the energy performance of a building. Things such as wall insulation, using extra insulating window frames, and increasing the area of south-facing windows. All these factors are integrated into the calculation of the overall energy performance of a building. And where it's technically and financially possible, use of renewable energy is suggested. When a brand new building is involved, the results can be spectacular. For example, a study was carried out on this house to work out how to get the maximum from the sunshine.
Seit mehr als einer Woche haben wir in der Nacht in etwa -10 Grad und untertags sehr viel Sonne. Das heißt, wir können seit mehr als einer Woche völlig auf unsere zusätzlichen Heizmöglichkeiten verzichten. Wir können Warmwasser mit Solaranlage produzieren und bekommen über die großen Fensterflächen im Südbereich hier am Wintergarten und bei den anderen großen Fenstern ausreichend Wärme ins Haus.
On the advice of the Energy Agency, the house was built facing south and equipped with the most up-to-date energy-saving techniques. In the end, the only means of heating in the house is this small stove, which uses wood pellets, another renewable energy source.
Wir haben vorher in einer Wohnung gewohnt und die recht dunkel war und trotzdem also viel zum Heizen, obwohl sie um die Hälfte kleiner war.
Of course, not all homes can reach this sort of performance level, but the new directive will oblige every country to establish minimum standards of energy efficiency. Some standards will apply to new constructions, others to large-scale renovations of more than 1,000 square metres. In the case of renovations, technological and economic feasibility will be taken into account in bringing them fully up to standard. But there are few buildings without a solution. Dana Kadalova has certainly seen that for herself. For over 20 years, she's lived in an old Soviet-era apartment building in the suburbs of České Budějovice in the Czech Republic, a building constructed with no insulation at all and no system for regulating the heating.
No tak jako neporovnatelně hůř. Nejhorší třeba bylo, tady jsem ve 12. poschodí, když fouká vítr, tak tady fouká opravdu. Nemá prostě, není tady žádná zábrana, nebo a když foukal vítr, tak mi normálně vlály záclony na oknech a byla tady zima.
Energy used to be subsidised in the Czech Republic. Nowadays, the price has increased fivefold. So along with the other tenants, Mrs. Kadalova campaigned for the building to be renovated. The facade has been completely insulated. The windows double glazed and all the radiators fitted with thermostats.
Tím zateplením poměrně hodně budeme šetřit, teda tepelnou energii, budeme méně platit. Tady je vidět, kolik se ušetřilo jenom na tom, že se osadily termoventily a měření, protože v podstatě lidi začali šetřit.
We're now going to Lisbon in Portugal. Here, the national plan to be outlined under the European directive is likely to deal with a growing phenomenon throughout the whole of southern Europe, the uncontrolled growth in air conditioning systems. Eduardo Maldonado, energy advisor to the Portuguese government, is sounding the alarm.
Aqui nos climas quentes do sul da Europa, nós temos verão que nos obriga a problemas de conforto e os edifícios nunca foram concebidos para esse tipo de situação. E, portanto, as pessoas sentem desconforto, vão a um supermercado, a um fornecedor, compram ar-condicionado e põem na parede, em sítio qualquer. Ficam os edifícios feios e, sobretudo, gastam muita energia.
Aside from the visual and noise pollution, the explosion in the number of air conditioners can also create problems for electricity supplies.
Mas já há zonas da Europa, nomeadamente nas zonas mais quentes do sul mediterrâneo, em que já houve problemas de blackouts no verão, até alguns bastante recentes, e que podem agravar-se se se continuar a multiplicar o consumo de ar-condicionado, com o ritmo de venda que existe de aparelhos de ar-condicionado de toda a Europa.
In the future, Eduardo Maldonado believes people should better insulate buildings and use simple, effective techniques such as photosensitive glass, air conditioning windows, and even simple exterior blinds. Badly controlled air conditioners and boilers waste energy, and the losses are greater the more powerful they are. That's why the European directive requires a regular inspection of installations above a certain size. This sort of system already exists for boilers in many member states. Also new, the European directive will introduce a system of building certification. This system takes a lead directly from the system already in place for electrical household goods. In the same way that the level of energy consumption is displayed on a refrigerator, so every building will be given a very simple certificate indicating its overall energy consumption. This certificate will be awarded by independent professionals and will be accompanied by energy-saving advice. Valid for a maximum 10 years, it will be obligatory for all new constructions and for buildings up for sale or for rent. It's clearly of benefit to tenants. They will then know what sort of costs they're taking on, and the certificate is also a plus for an owner.
Un bâtiment que vous allez revendre dans 5 ans, qui aura effectivement mis en œuvre des techniques qui permettent d'assurer une grande performance énergétique, aura une bien meilleure valeur sur le marché que si ça n'était pas le cas.
And to make the public more conscious of saving energy, large public buildings with many visitors will have to display their certificate. In Almada in Portugal, the council is already trying out some small pilot schemes on a voluntary basis ahead of the full implementation of the directive. In the primary school, for example, the building certificate has been put up in the canteen, and all the children help to improve the score by learning good habits.
O que é que aprendemos sobre energia?
E às vezes usamos o sol para a energia, nunca se gasta. Pois a energia. E a energia depois fica sempre nas fichas.
Tem que se apagar a televisão quando não estamos a usar.
Quando não precisamos da luz, temos que apagar, senão a luz gasta.
At the local Environment Agency, they've also displayed the building certificate in the library. It generates quite a lot of questions from visitors.
Vamos dar algumas explicações.
Se quiser mais informações.
O póster que nós temos lá embaixo é um póster que nos permite levar esta mensagem a um número vasto de pessoas que diariamente visitam o espaço da ecoteca e por isso ele está colocado na zona de atendimento da ecoteca e as pessoas vão perceber porque é que com determinadas medidas implementadas nas obras e na reabilitação deste edifício conseguimos chegar a alguns desempenhos. E a nossa ideia é que as pessoas transportem esta ideia para as suas casas.
É uma campanha europeia, o display. Está aqui pequeno folheto sobre.
Of course, the most economic energy will always be the energy we don't use. But in the end, it's not just wallets that will be the winners.
If you invest cleverly, or even you're constructing the building, or renovating the building, that running costs which will be much lower. And it's with the rising prices of oil and gas, and it means also rising prices of electricity, there will be quite a lot of savings. The Commission is encouraging these measures throughout the European Union. I very much expect that national governments will continue to work in this direction and encourage citizens to use energy-efficient technologies, not only for themselves, but also for the future generations.
The Directive on Energy Performance of Buildings applies from January 2006. But it's not just in the building sector that energy savings are possible. Efforts are also necessary in industry and transport. The European Commission, in its Green Paper on energy efficiency, is consulting on concrete measures for the 3 sectors. We mustn't forget that saving energy and making more of clean and efficient sources of energy is not just about reducing our dependence and our fuel bills. It's also to protect the climate, while at the same time improving the quality of our lives.